Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger Podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Shea Dixon, recording from an empty room in the press box. Shea, we've
away game
made it
radio
work.
booth.
Away game radio booth. Hopefully, they don't kick us out of here, but we wanted to get a podcast out to y'all as fast as possible. We didn't want to wait in traffic to get home, so here we are. And let's talk about this win, man. What a night! What a performance! Not sold out, but to me, everything is sold out because I come from North Texas. 100,000 people here, to me, is fantastic.
Great atmosphere.
And they stayed the whole game.
Yeah.
It was a great game, obviously, so they had reason to stay, and it was homecoming, and it was at 2:30 kickoff, so there was no, getting to the bars and stuff yet. Great atmosphere, great win, 45-20 over number 7 Ole Miss. I mean,
this is what everybody thought, though.
Yeah.
LSU was being picked. LSU was the
They were.
favorite. It got to a pick 'em at kickoff, but the line had shifted. LSU being a favorite, all despite Ole Miss being 7-0 and undefeated, and everybody thought there was a little fool's gold to it, and it turns out that LSU's the team that exposes it.
Yeah, and that's why, we went into this game with expectations that they could win. We picked them to win, and I think a lot of that was because of I wrote multiple times that LSU's offense was the best that Ole Miss has seen. And I still obviously stand by that when Ole Miss allows LSU to put 45 points on them. And, the only other offense that they had seen in the top, 60 in the country in terms of advanced stats is Tulsa. And LSU was able to expose them.
Well, you didn't know if you were going to get the LSU offense you had seen all year that started slow and then kind of put things together. The one at Gainesville that goes and scores 6 touchdowns in the first 6 possessions. They didn't do that, but they did score 6 touchdowns in the final 8 possessions. So they fall behind 17-3, but ultimately go on a 42-3 run to get a 25-point win, convincing. Again, this had moved to a pick-em, but LSU was favored by a couple points all week, 1.5 points, 25-point win. So you got the offense from Gainesville. It has been a great 2 weeks for Mike Denbrock. It's been a great 2 weeks for Jayden Daniels. It's been a great 2 weeks for just offensive execution from the O-line to the run game, all that. So it went about as perfect as you could have it go.
Yeah, and the game starts off, if we want to go in kind of chronological order here, the game starts off and it's 17-3, and I think holding them to a field goal there to make it 17-3 instead of 21-3. I wrote on Twitter and on our board, I was like, that feels huge. It's only 4 points, but it feels like a massive win because it kept him in a 2-possession game. But still, 17-3, it felt a lot like the Tennessee game. And even though we had seen it against Mississippi State and Auburn and Florida to a degree, it felt a lot more like the Tennessee game because of how fast Ole Miss was playing. And they were able to run the ball, and Jackson Dart came out 9 of 10 early on.
Well, that's what was their scripted game plan. So those first few possessions of the game were heavy on Dart throwing. And we all thought going into this that it would be heavy on the run game. That's what Ole Miss had really cut their teeth on across a 7-0 start. So they caught LSU off balance, but LSU adjusted defensively. I think that when you look at what they did after Ole Miss went up 17-3 to only score 3 more points the rest of the game was obviously huge. And after the game, we saw a lot of Harold Perkins out there in the second half, even when B.J. Ojulari was there, even at times when both of them wouldn't normally be on the field. And Brian Kelly said at halftime, Matt House basically said, "Look, I think I'm overthinking this in a sense of I'm trying to mask our deficiencies. Let's just let them all play." And they let them all play in the second half. I thought he called a good game defensively. A lot of they brought pressure nonstop in the second half, and Ole Miss couldn't settle in.
And the big thing, I talked to Micah Baskerville after the game. The big thing was he said that it was a package that they had planned for, and it kind of felt like this was their backup plan. In case our base defense doesn't get it done. I don't remember exactly what he called it, but he was like, we can go to this package where we have basically, to me, it was a 3-3-5 because Harold Perkins wasn't on the line as an edge, and then BJ and Ollie Gay kind of swapped off a bit, and it was mostly BJ, but you had a 3-3-5 where Harold Perkins could just attack the entire time, and because of that, I thought he kind of changed the game in a sense, and I thought BJ got after it. Mekhi Wingo, I want to give a shout out to. I thought he was fantastic, but it just made life easier, and it got pressure on Dart to make him uncomfortable because I don't think the defensive back started playing that much better, but the pressure started picking up.
100%. I thought that they saw that they struggled with the corners early in the game getting beat, so they dialed up the pressure, and obviously that helped a ton. I would say, we were talking about it being 17-3. If people are wondering, maybe you didn't see the game or you're kind of trying to put it back, you did watch it and you're putting it together again. I think in my piece for after the game, I kind of did a how the Tigers won and broke down some of the things. But I went big play on offense. Dre Jenkins,
yes,
Daniels for the first time in the game went downfield into double coverage. Dre kind of makes an adjustment on an underthrown ball, splits the defenders, catches it, goes in the end zone. And as you said, suddenly it's 17-3 to 17-10.
Yes.
That's where the comeback begins. So they scored a lot of points in this one, but I think that Dre Jenkins one, had they not had that,
yes,
who knows if they catch a spark.
Yeah, and so you're able to go into half only down 3, 20-17, and at that point, I don't know how exactly I'm feeling, but it feels like LSU obviously has momentum on its side, and then the second half they were scoring 28-0, and the defense stays locked in. I mean, I think Brian Kelly said they only rushed for 20 yards in the second half. Ole Miss did, something along those lines. I mean, they finished the game only rushing for 3.1 yards per carry.
Yeah,
which is it's incredible because they're the third. I believe they ranked 11th in yards per rush and third in yards per game.
Third in yards per game rushing behind like Army and Navy, or I think it was Air Force. Schools that run the ball on every play.
Yes.
So we did not see. I don't think we saw any. No, we didn't. Any of Zach Evans for Ole Miss today. No John Emery for LSU today. Both former 5-stars sidelined. It sounded like they were banged up and didn't get any run. Normally that's a two-headed monster for LSU. Judkins still goes for 111 and 2. But again, I mean, look, if you would have looked and said Dart threw it for nearly 300 yards and Judkins ran for 111 and 2, you would have thought that, oh man, Ole Miss put up some points.
Yeah.
It's LSU this time defensively that got a bunch of stops. I'll say one hidden stat in this that won't get looked at. Kelly and long time ago. Kelly and Kiffin have been analytic heavy this year on going for it on fourth downs. They both played a conservative game in that regard. I mean, I think LSU went for it once on fourth down. Ole Miss went for it once on fourth down, and then I guess they went for it at the end of the game on fourth down.
Yeah.
But really just once for each side, and both teams took field goals a lot, or at least attempted them. LSU missed one. But I liked that early on, that Kelly wasn't chasing points.
Yeah.
He allowed them to settle in. They
even missed a field goal,
right?
Which I thought was fine. I thought was the right call. I think it was 4th and 8 from like the 30 or something along those lines, and they kicked it and instead went for it. And I thought it was fine to cut it. I believe that was to cut it to 6-14. Last thing I'll say about the defense is Jackson Dart started the game 9 of 10 passing, and it finished the game 19 of 34. So quick math, that means he went 10 of 24 after the first quarter, basically. And, I mean, that's all. I know Matt House, we're so up and down, or at least, us, the board, LSU fans in general, are so up and down on these coordinators. It's like they're doing great, they're doing bad.
I'm not. I'm pretty steady at it.
You're steady. The rest of us are kind of up and down, right? And so it's like we go up and down with them, and then they have Matt House obviously comes prepared with a backup plan, and for that to be the case, I think is huge for this team.
100%. I think that again, when you look at what they've done halftime adjustments for Matt House have been one of the more impressive things we've seen this year.
Yes.
I think Denbrock has scripted games really well coming out of the gates this year. Have they always executed? No. Like we saw a lot of games where they were not executing at all. I think that now we're starting to see them execute. It's been more impressive as they come out. Again, this time I didn't mind kicking 2 field goals, even if you missed one of them, because ultimately you trust your offense and they go out and reel off touchdowns in 6 of the final 8 possessions of the game. That was big time. And I think you talk about being hot and cold on coordinators. People are hot and cold on your man Jayden Daniels.
Yes. He
now owns the LSU single-season rushing record for touchdowns. He had 3 tonight, ran for 121. He threw for 248 and 2. He completed 75% of his passes. Are we at the point, Brian Kelly seems to be at the point where he feels like Jayden has completely turned the corner and now is settled in and they have the trust in him that he is fully running this offense.
Yeah, I mean, 28 of 21 passing for 250 yards. Again, no interceptions. It didn't even feel like he ever put the ball in harm's way. He did tuck the ball a lot, but
a lot of design runs early on.
There were a lot of design. I mean, he finished the game with 23 rushes. That's a lot of rushes for a quarterback. 5.3 yards to carry, 3 rushing touchdowns. I mean, Daniels, to me, they've done a great job at accentuating what he's good at, and I think they did a good job with the quick throws this time. They found pockets in the zone really well, and overall, just as an offense, I was really pleased with how Denbrock used Daniels. It felt like for the first time they were on the same page.
Right,
and
100%.
That's what you want to see against a defense that I actually was not high on coming in, but I thought Ole Miss defense was decent coming into this game. So
No doubt. And I think, too, you got to look at the balance, which we talked about in our post-game stories, the balance between the run and the pass is there. And Josh Williams talked about going into this game, a lot of their focus was on Jayden design runs and getting the run game going against an Ole Miss that had basically a 3-down front, to where they said, we're going to just take what they give us. Yep. And they said in practice this week it was a lot of Jayden's going to run it. Josh Williams is going to run it. Armani Goodwin, who had a hamstring surgery, which almost doesn't ever happen, but somehow came back way ahead of schedule.
I just want to know what they did.
He looked great.
He looked amazing.
He averaged more than anyone, 7 yards a carry, and he was hitting piles and driving them with his feet every time for a couple first downs. So 8 for 55, again, that's 7 yards a carry for Armani Goodwin. I know maybe 8 for 55 doesn't sound great. That's actually really, really good.
Yeah.
But Josh Williams, 17 for 76. That's 5 yards a carry. He got in at the end. And we mentioned Daniels, 23 carries, 121 yards, 3 touchdowns. And maybe more so than all season, a lot of those 23 attempts are not just, he tucked it and ran. There was a lot of designed runs to go into this game. And you look at what all they did. Matty B, this is what blew me away. They spread the ball around well in the passing game. 8 different guys caught the football. But nobody caught more than 51 yards. That's Jere Jenkins, who caught a 38-yarder, which basically makes up the bulk of that. Butte with 43, Neighbors with 47, Mason Taylor with 44. He had a huge play.
Yes.
And a huge touchdown on a 4th down. That was a great call.
Great call.
Josh Williams at 25 out of the backfield, Jere with the 51, Brian Thomas with 26, Kyron Lacey with 18, and then Armani caught 1 for 4. So no one went out and had the 100-yard game.
No.
But everyone had a very solid, 30 to 50-yard game.
And, again, I love how they used them against the zone. It felt like Ole Miss was playing really soft in a lot of their coverages, and they kept taking what they're giving them on the ground and through the air. Didn't force the ball down the field, which I feel like if you're a defense, you want to force LSU to throw the ball down the field, but Ole Miss kind of was comfortable with kind of playing that bend-don't-break style, and LSU continued to break through for touchdowns, which is obviously not what Ole Miss wanted.
Yeah, Lane said that at halftime in his interview. I was listening to the TV broadcast in one ear, and he said, we've been bend, don't break so far. That's fine, but we got to get stops. And it just went the other way on them. They started to break the whole way.
Ole Miss, I thought the 3rd down difference was big here. Because they started, Ole Miss finished the game 4 of 12, LSU 6 of 11. I thought that was huge because LSU was able to sustain drives. Probably the best I've seen them sustain drives the entire year. And the big thing as well.
Florida, those were a lot of 75, 80-yard drives.
They were. You're right.
So in back-to-back weeks,
they're
sustaining offensive drives.
And then to kind of go to, just to bounce back to the defense real quick, for LSU not to have turned the ball over on special teams or offense, I felt like was one of the biggest things. Because that was your thing was like,
Don't give it away.
Don't give it away on special teams. Don't give it away in general, and you'll be okay. The starting field position for Ole Miss, they had one drive start at their own 30. The rest of their drives started at their 25 or worse. They never
made some
had
good special teams coverage plays on kickoffs where they tried to take it out, and LSU got them tackled. So kudos to the special teams. I know they missed a field goal tonight. I think they jumped off sides in the first play of the game. But they caught the ball well. I thought Greg Clayton did a very good job of waving things off, letting things go, fielding it, whatever he had to do with Jack Besh out. So he looked good at punt returner. I know we're hopping around here, but another notable stat. And again, all of this discussion was Ole Miss has this huge high-powered offense. LSU found some life in Florida, but they haven't been great on offense. LSU, we're looking at the stats, had more total yards, had 40 less passing yards, 40 fewer, but really they ran the ball the entire 4th quarter. Had more than double the rushing yards, less penalties, more first downs, more 3rd downs converted, perfect on 4th downs, more total plays run, more average yards per play, more average yards per rush. 6 of 6 in the red zone, and outpossessed them by a good amount, nearly by 13 minutes. So this LSU out offense Ole Miss. The defense did great to buckle in and all that, but you still need the offense to do. Like, we've seen the defense buckle in this year, and the offense just didn't do anything. Florida State. Now the offense is cashing in on these opportunities that are being given, and they look really, really good.
And I'm trying to figure out, this Ole Miss offense coming into the game, and again, they hadn't played anybody super tough besides maybe Kentucky, but for this defense to through 3 possessions, I was like, am I going to have to just be like, is this defense just not good at this point? Because they just couldn't get burned by Tennessee. Florida puts 35, and then this. I'm like, are they going to figure it out? And then for House to make the adjustment necessary to go to the package that they did, I thought it was huge. And so I have, at this point, from here on out, I mean, I don't think there's too much we can really say about the coordinators where I'm like, or there's not too much the teams can do besides, falling off a cliff, where I'm going to be like, oh, the coordinators are in question at any point, because it's like they have continuously, it seems like they figured it out. They're playing to their team's strength consistently. On offense, Jayden Daniels, again, last 2 games, he has 6 rushing touchdowns and 5 passing touchdowns. Like, they have figured out how to design an offense around Jayden Daniels to be consistent. And then defensively, they're versatile enough to play to their strengths. And if they need to play Harold Perkins more, they can. If they need to go to nickel, if they need to go to dime, they have enough personnel to mask their deficiencies. And so I want to give credit to the coordinators because I thought that was really impressive.
Shout out to all the coordinators for games well called across all 3 of them. Brian Kelly. Shout out to Brian Kelly, who I guess is a good way to wrap it up. LSU's over-under was set at 7.5. Some people, or 7 wins. Some people are getting it at 6.5.
I got it at 6.5.
LSU is now 6-2, 4 games left as they enter the bye week. So you're far ahead of schedule in Brian Kelly's first year. We said it all off season and said it even more at the beginning of the year when they lost to Florida State, and then obviously lost again in their Tennessee. But even when they were kind of not playing well and sneaking out wins, it was, guys, you should be happy if they can get to 7 wins.
Yes.
Now you've got a bye week, Bama at home, Arkansas on the road, UAB out of conference at home, and then you wrap up on the road against A&M, who does not look like the A&M that everyone thought before the season that they would be. Suddenly, and I'm not buying, if you pull up the SEC West standings, LSU's sitting at the top of it right now.
Yes.
Don't get past yourself, but 7 wins is attainable now. You should beat UAB. That's now. 7 wins.
It's a floor now, which is crazy.
7 wins is a floor now, which we did not think we would be saying before the bye week.
No, I mean no.
So,
and that's the thing is, obviously coming into the year, we're always like, all right, there's hesitancy. We think they can get to 7 wins. We had them at 8 wins coming into the year, so obviously the talent on this team was evident. But they've done. How much can they improve from the start of the season to this point? I think that's been just a massive jump. And even though, like you said, they didn't dominate Auburn. They didn't look great against Tennessee, obviously. Florida was hit or miss, depending on which side of the ball you point to. For this performance, like, to put this together, I said it in the Florida podcast. It's showing your proof of concept, and the concept has been there consistently. And we never doubted that they were going to win with Brian Kelly, head coach. But to get this win against Lane Kiffin, who obviously has Ole Miss rolling at this point, in year 1,
a top 10
huge.
Win over an undefeated SEC team in late October is a massive win.
It's huge. And so you have that, and you go forward, and whatever happens going forward, if they just beat UAB and then one of the other 3, you're at 8-4, and that is
let's be real. Arkansas does. In fact, Alabama, Arkansas, and A&M do not look like the teams.
They're going to be favored in all 3 of those games.
They won't be favored in Bama.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought the other 3.
Yes.
Yeah, the other 3, they'll be favored.
Even Bama doesn't look like they normally do.
Yes.
Bama's penalty prone the past few weeks. They've shot themselves in the foot, I think, 24-0 against State. So you knew that one was coming.
Yeah.
That they would end up turning around and rolling right over Mississippi State this week after losing to Tennessee. But that should be... Bama's offense is great. They'll go throw up points on anyone. Now all of a sudden we think, oh, this will be fun to watch LSU's offense
shootout.
And Bama in a shootout. But that's for 2 weeks down the road. Right now, 6-2. LSU will be ranked again. Yes. Not that matters much, but they do still control their own destiny in the West. If you win those 3 games, you're in an SEC championship. I would have never imagined that we would have said that LSU could be looking at the final 3 SEC games thinking, hey, look,
control your destiny.
They will go into November controlling their own destiny.
Yeah, I have nothing else. The penalties, real quick. The penalties were crazy on both sides of the ball. It was 18 total penalties.
Well, and this was the same crew from the Tennessee-Bama game.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Had a gajillion penalties and 5,000 reviews.
Roughing the passers, holdings, the Harold Perkins call, which I thought was going to be huge because it gave Ole Miss life late when I think it was only a 10-point game or 11-point game at that point, something like that. But anyways, it all worked itself out. In the end, the defense still stayed strong, but the penalties were a big part of this game for those who maybe didn't watch. And then they evened out.
It even looked like LSU got a stop on a 4th down that didn't get reviewed, and almost just went hurry, but then Joe Fuchsia picked it off, which I thought was the biggest defensive play of the game. One-handed interception. They had just gone up by 4, LSU did, for the first time. You get that instead of going down by 3 now and you're trading possessions. Pick, drove it back down, scored, went up 11.
It's one of the biggest plays of the year defensively.
No doubt.
I think the B.J. Ojulari Auburn strip sack
Jay Ward
is up
touchdown.
there.
Yep.
Yeah, like those plays are up there. But that Joe Fuchs one-handed just interception is massive.
the Greg Brooks strip of Coy Moore.
Yes.
Sealed that game.
Yeah, the Auburn game.
But yeah, that play I thought
is up there.
That swung it. I mean, Ole Miss could have gone ahead right then. They
Yes.
then never scored again.
Yeah. So that's it. I think I had something else, but off the this post game live
we'll get it
reactions.
in the mailbag.
Yeah, we had to do a mailbag on Monday. Brian Kelly said after the game that the staff will be out recruiting and everything. So.
And there's no Brian Kelly press conference on Monday, so
Nope.
we'll rock the mailbag, and that'll be the entertainment.
Yep, mailbag, and then recruiting podcast with Billy, and we'll be hitting the ground running. So,
all right,
this was good. We got it worked out in the
away game radio booth, and then people were coming in to obviously shut it down and put all the equipment away. So
yeah, we
kept a straight face.
We got it figured out though. So
if you're wondering what all that racket is in the background, it's all the TV crews breaking.
Literally all
down.
the TV cameras are in front of us, so they're all breaking them down right there. But yeah, this was fun. We appreciate y'all for joining us. Again, if you haven't already subscribed for $1, we appreciate the support on the channel. Subscribe, like, comment, and yeah, this was a lot of fun. From a just obviously this is my second year. From a just fun perspective, you had all these celebrities here. You had Drewski was here. SEC Network was here. CBS obviously was doing the game. It was just a lot of fun.
And
so
Barstool Sports, I think, is down here.
I did
doing
hear
all
that.
kind of
Barstool
stuff,
was there. I mean, so this was fun. It's a week where there wasn't a ton of great games. So LSU Ole Miss.
I just liked when the students rushed the field and the fans booed them.
Did they boo them?
Yeah, they were booing. They were like, "What are y'all doing?"
I loved it.
It's a top 10 win, but are you really rushing the field? The players loved it. They said.
Oh, I mean, yeah. In theory, like LSU shouldn't be rushing the field to beating Ole Miss, but it's homecoming. The students stayed the whole game.
Let them get down.
They had fun. They
didn't attempt to touch a goalpost, which makes it a little bit better.
Yeah, it's not like they were trying to beat Tennessee or anything like that. But it was good fun. But all right, that's all we have for y'all today. We hope y'all enjoyed it, and we'll talk to y'all later.